Hello everyone, myself Davade Manjushri. Due to COVID-19, our college decided to start the current semester in online. So we start our first lecture. In this lecture, I introduce the syllabus of Pharmaceutical Analysis 5th in semester 7th. It contains two sections. Section first, high performance liquid chromatography, infrared spectroscopy, scanning electron microscopy. Last is the transmission electron microscopy. The section second contains gas chromatography, flash chromatography, supercritical fluid chromatography, and last is introduction to automated methods of analysis. When we look over the syllabus or sections, it contains four major chapters of the chromatography and which are distributed in both sections. So, for the convenience, I introduce the chapter as per the category wise, not as per the section wise. So, let us discuss on chromatography. What is chromatography? Chromatography is a method of separation in which the component of mixture to be distributed themselves between two phases. One of these is a stationary phase and other is a mobile phase which moves on stationary phase in a definite direction. The component of the mixture redistributed themselves between two phases by a process which may be absorption, partition, ion exchange or size exclusion. These are nothing but the mechanisms by which separation takes place. On the basis of dimensions, the chromatography is broadly categorized in two categories. First one is planar chromatography and second one is column chromatography. The planar chromatography is in that the stationary phase is supported on flat plate or in the fiber of paper. The examples are included in that is paper chromatography and thin layer chromatography. In column chromatography, the stationary phase is held in a narrow tube through which the mobile phase is forced either by pressure or by gravity. The examples are included are simple chromatography, high performance liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, supercritical fluid chromatography, and flash chromatography. First chapter is high performance liquid chromatography. Shortly it is called as HPLC. HPLC is an analytical technique used to separate, identify and quantify components in a mixture. The separation is based on the distribution of the analyte between a mobile phase and a stationary phase. In HPLC, generally the mobile phase is used in the form of liquid and the stationary phase is in the form of solid. Depending on the chemical structure of the analyte, the molecules are retarded while passing the stationary phase. The specific intermolecular interaction between the molecules of a sample and the packing material define their time on column. Hence, different constituents of a sample are eluted at different time. Thereby, the separation of the sample ingredients is achieved. This is the basic of HPLC. So, from this chapter, we learn the theory or principle of the HPLC, instrumentation of HPLC. For example, for the separation, we need mobile phase reservoir, pump, column, detector, display system, tubings. The next point is degassing technique. The column is filled with micron size particles, so it needs the pump to run the mobile phase smoothly, and due to that, if the gas are dissolved in the mobile phase, it causes the troubles or problems for the separation. So we need the degassing technique or degas the mobile phase before the separation start. So this chapter highlight the degassing technique also. The next point is applications of the HPLC. Next point is troubleshooting. In that point, we discuss briefly the which type of problems are arises in HPLC and how to overcome it. The next point is UPLC. The UPLC is the advanced technique of the HPLC. In that technique, we reduce the dimensions of the column as well as reduce the particle size of the stationary phase. And due to that, we reduce the or consume the time as well as solvent through that technique. Hence, this technique is also highlighted in this chapter. Next point is system suitability testing parameter. In this point, we learn the which type of parameters are used to verify the given analytical method is suitable for its intended purpose. Next point is quantitation techniques. The HPLC is used for the determination of quantity of components present in mixture. The different methods are used for the determination of quantity. For example, area normalization, percent area, internal standard addition method, and external standard addition methods. All these are studied in this chapter in details. The next chapter is gas chromatography. The gas chromatography differs from other form of chromatography on the basis of mobile phase and the requirement of the sample. In this chromatography, the mobile phase is gas and the components are separated, that is sample is either a gas or a liquid that is vaporized in the injection port. The separation in gas chromatography is based on partitioning. The components of the sample will partition between the two phases, the stationary phase and the mobile phase, same as an HPLC. Components that have a greater affinity for a stationary phase spends more time in the column and thus elute later and have a longer duration of time than the sample that have a higher affinity for the mobile phase. This is the basic of gas chromatography. From this chapter, we learn same as an HPLC, the principle of gas chromatography, instrumentation of gas chromatography. The next point, which is different from the HPLC, is derivatization. Derivatization is a process by which compounds is chemically changed and producing a new compound that has property more, and in GC some samples require derivatization in order to make them suitable for analysis. The next point is quantitation technique. In that also we using area normalization, percent area, internal standard addition method and external standard addition method for the determination of quantity of components in mixture. The next point is the application of gas chromatography. The next chapter is flash chromatography. Flash chromatography is basically an air pressure driven hybrid of medium pressure and shorter column chromatography. That is, mobile phase under gas or air pressure push rapidly through a short column for rapid separation. The net result is dramatically decreasing the time needed to purify the sample. From this chapter also we learn principle or theory of flash chromatography, instrumentation of flash chromatography and applications of same one. The next chapter is supercritical fluid chromatography. Supercritical fluid chromatography is a form of normal phase chromatography that uses a supercritical fluid such as carbon dioxide as the mobile phase. A supercritical fluid is any substance or mobile phase which has a temperature and pressure above its critical point. Hence, where it cannot present distinctly in liquid form as well as gaseous form. The net result is increasing the separation speed, achieve chiral separation, and reduction of solvent use. From this chapter also we learn theory or principle of supercritical fluid chromatography, instrumentation and application of supercritical fluid chromatography. Here the chapters in chromatography are over and next category is the spectroscopy. The spectroscopy is the another analytical technique in that we interact the sample or analyte with the electromagnetic radiations. Electromagnetic radiation is a kind of radiation including visible light, radio waves, gamma rays, X-rays, Raman rays, etc. On the basis of that interactions, spectroscopy is again subcategorized in different chapters. From that chapters, one of the chapter is IR, which is included in your syllabus. IR is nothing but the infrared spectroscopy. This spectroscopy detects the absorption of light by a compound in the IR region of the electromagnetic spectrum. To absorb IR light, a molecule must have a bond within its structure that can exhibit what is referred to as a dipole moment, which means electrons within a bond are not shared equally. To explain this term, we are taking the one of the example of water. Water contains the two hydrogen atom and one oxygen atom, which are bonded with each other by sharing the electrons. When we see the oxygen is the more electron negative as compared to the hydrogen. So it pull up the bonding pair of electron toward itself. And that's why it acquired the partially negative charge and hydrogen acquired the partially positive charge. This term is nothing but called as dipole moment. That means for the absorption of IR radiations, the molecule must be exhibit dipole moment. This is the basic of IR spectroscopy. From this chapter, we learn the theory or principle of IR, important spectral regions of IR, vibrational frequency, molecular vibrations, fundamental bands, Fermi resonance, etc. The next point is FTIR. The conventional IR is a dispersive spectrometer. Dispersive means in that the IR radiations when pass from the monochromator it get dispersed. Hence, it measure intensity of IR radiation over a narrow range of wavelength at a time. But the FTIR is a method of obtaining infrared spectra by first collecting an interferogram of a sample signal using an interferometer. Interferometer means it collects the IR radiations and pass simultaneously from the sample and then perform the Fourier transform on the interferogram to obtain the spectrum. Fourier transform is a mathematical process required to convert the detector output to an interpretable spectrum. That is, FTIR spectrometer collects and digitalizes the interferogram, perform the FT function and display the spectra. From this point, we learn theory or principle, instrumentation, sample handling, different attachments used in recording of FTIR, analysis and interpretation of organic compounds based on the FTIR spectra. The next point is the infrared spectroscopy. Before look over the infrared spectroscopy, first we understand the infrared radiation region. The infrared radiation region is subcategorized in three categories: far IR region, middle IR region and near IR region. So in near infrared spectroscopy, we interact the sample with near infrared radiations in IR electromagnetic spectrum. The Raman spectroscopy. The Raman spectroscopy is an analytical technique where scattered light is used to measure the vibrational energy mode of a sample. Raman spectroscopy can provide both chemical and structural information, as well as the identification of substances through their characteristic Raman fingerprints. Raman spectroscopy extracts this information through the detection of Raman scattering from the sample. From these both chapters we learn the theory, instrumentation and applications. The next chapter is scanning electron microscopy. A scanning electron microscope is a type of electron microscope that produces images of a sample by scanning the surface with a focused beam of electrons. The electrons interact with atoms in the sample, producing various signals that contain information about the surface topography and composition of the sample. In this chapter also include the introduction of same principal applications of scanning electron microscopy. The next chapter is the transmission electron microscopy. Shortly it is called as TEM. Transmission electron microscopy is a microscopy technique in which a beam of electrons is transmitted through a specimen to form an image. This enables the instrument to capture fine details even as small as single column of atom, which is thousands of times smaller than a resolved object seen in the light microscope. In this chapter also studied the principle and applications of transmission electron microscope. The last chapter in this subject is new analytical method. In that chapter we just introducing the automated methods of analysis, that is the flow injection analysis. Here we finish our first lecture on syllabus. We will meet soon on next lecture on Monday. Till thank you and happy learning. Stay safe and stay healthy.